By and by, imagined Thomas Carlyle, it will be found that all literature has become one boundless self-devouring review. The image would have horrified De Quincey, but it was in these boundless self-devouring reviews that he grew his voice. De Quincey, whose writing was itself anarchic, thrived in the anarchic culture of contemporary journalism, where the flexibility of his editors allowed him to invent a new style. He contributed to the great age of roughhouse in the language of reverie. He was not an essayist in the polished manner of William Hazlitt. De Quincey did not create finished objects. The virtue of the essay is that it reflects a thought in the process of discovering itself, and De Quincey dramatized this process. He wrote in diversions. He recycled other people's words. He produced experiments in inwardness, works in progress. Instead of moving in a horizontal direction, he either plunged downward or rose, as Leslie Stephen said, like a bat on the wings of prose to the borders of the true poetic region. Reading De Quincey's individual essays can be a vertiginous experience. Reading his collected works is like falling into pandemonium. His subjects included the Greeks, the Caesars, the Westmoreland dialect, contemporary politics, ocean navigation, velocity, philosophy, political economy, astronomy, opium eating, China and the Opium Wars, literary style, the experiences of his childhood, the dream life and the structure of memory. A literary critic of outstanding originality, he also wrote a Gothic novel called Klosterheim, 2 novellas, The Household Wreck and The Avenger, published translations from numerous German texts, and, for 1 hectic year, he edited the local newspaper, the Westmoreland Gazette, during which time he fed the Lakeland farmers a diet of Kantian metaphysics, Wordsworthian poetry, and tales of the unexpected. The only literary form De Quincey did not employ was the one he most admired, poetry. Instead, he made his name as a spokesman of poets, and was the first critic to separate decisively what T.S. Eliot called the man who suffers from the mind which creates. That the poet and his poetry had distinct identities was to prove De Quincey's greatest insight and bitterest disappointment. Thomas De Quincey was an obsessive. He was obsessed with the Ratcliffe Highway murders, and he was obsessed with William Wordsworth. Guilty Thing is an attempt to follow the growth of these twin obsessions from seed to full flowering, and to trace the way in which they intertwined. Positioning his preoccupation with murderers and poets at the forefront of what follows, I have placed De Quincey's numerous other interests in the background, and sought permission for this biographical privilege in his own example. Revising his autobiographical writings for the collected edition of his works, De Quincey dismissed as wearisome and useless the hackneyed roll-call of a man's life, chronologically arranged. It was surely better, he suggested, to detach a single scene that would record some of the deep impressions under which my childish sensibility expanded. De Quincey never put childish things away, and the deep impressions under which his sensibility expanded tended to be scenes of terror, deluge, and sudden death. These are the scenes on which I too have focused, believing that in his return to the Ratcliffe Highway murders we can find, dispersed in anagram, the story of De Quincey's life. Like Shakespeare, De Quincey enjoyed the idea of a play within a play, and he compared the murder of Gonzago, the tragedy performed under Hamlet's direction by the strolling players at Elsinore, to a room on whose wall is a picture of the room on whose wall is a picture of that room. We might, De Quincey wrote, imagine this descent into a life below a life, going on ad infinitum, and we might see his folding of the Ratcliffe Highway murders into his possession by Wordsworth as achieving a similar effect. A story within a story within a story, a room within a room within a room, going on ad infinitum. He was intensely aware of the spaces he occupied, the heights and widths